Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Rewilded Wellness Podcast. It's Lydia Joy. This is an impromptu episode. I was not planning on doing this episode, but as I realized, it is 2 weeks until official spring here. And I just thought that I could share kind of this little process I'm in to be supportive to others as well. It's a good time of year to start transitioning. It's kind of that's where we're at. We're like in a transition, right? So I thought I had some thoughts I would share with you today about spring cleaning your health as we transition from winter to spring. I find myself in this like little dance where I'm like, ooh, okay, it's still kind of wintry, but oh my, there's signs of spring. And so, it's just an opportunity to witness ourselves as we transition, right? We have these habits that we've put in place because of the winter that we won't need to do anymore, right? As well as like start thinking about how we are going to shift as the weather warms up and, there's fresh produce available again, local in season. So it's just a good time to um, see what this shift can teach us as we prepare for the incoming season. And it's not just about like, changing your wardrobe, decluttering your closet. It's really, to me, it's an opportunity for like a full mind, body, recalibration that affects how we feel, how we move, how we eat, how we be in our bodies. So every time we enter a new season, our bodies need time to adjust, right? This is the time of year that pretty soon a lot of people are going to be complaining about their bodies in some form or fashion, or potentially wanting to do some type of cleanse or detox, or feeling congestion of some form within themselves. It's just a time of year where people, the body is showing where it's been neglected, if you will, or where there has been excess and it wants to recalibrate. So spring in particular offers just like this beautiful opportunity to shed the heaviness of winter. And not even just the heaviness, but like winter slows us down. It calls to, as a time for more rest. I talked about winter wellness multiple episodes back in December, talking about that transition, all the things we would be doing differently, the ways we would be eating differently, right? So now we're shifting from, slowing down and trying to bunker down and stay warm and eat hearty foods, right? To embracing more lighter cleansing foods, to a season where we're more active. And it's really just nature's way of hitting the reset button. So I thought I'd share some thoughts on guiding us through this transition. In my household, I don't know. I've been doing this for so long. It just feels like a dance, right? It's the winter to spring dance. It's like, okay, not quite yet, but soon. It's like, oh, we don't really need this anymore. And when it comes to food, it's like that dance is like, all right, well, it's still a little chilly. It's windy. It's rainy. I want warm foods. Right. And then there's also this like, I don't know, the sense of the days that get warm and you just want the fresher foods, right? You want those greens. Like the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like almost 60 degrees. I want like a salad and fresh raw veggies, right? So that's what's going to start to happen more and more as the spring unfolds and releases these beautiful, fresh, vibrant greens. And it's just kind of cool to me because it's like the earth is like calling us back, right? Like it's this like promise of renewal and vitality, if you will. So like I said, transitioning between the seasons can be challenging, especially if you've created any excesses during the winter that need addressing. That's why I always keep, all my different seasonal tonics on hand and the different supports for the season. So as we move into spring, I start to shift away from all the denser foods, the heartier animal-based broths, for example, to more like a more veggie-rich broth with wild elements. If you follow me on Instagram, I often show what I'm making in the kitchen in my stories. So you would know if you watched those stories how I kind of am cooking on a weekly basis. And I want to share a little secret from my kitchen. It's kind of like I'm saying here is like this transition from like all winter I was making beef broth and like heartier broths. If I had a whole chicken, I would make a chicken broth after, but it was mostly beef broth and even like we got some ham hocks from our local farmer who raises pork. We'd make some nice ham hock broth, which is definitely more no, it's heavier because of the fat. So, I mean, you can, of course, skim the fat out, but it's like just more heavy, more satiating. And of course, you pair it with things like beans and, all these starchy vegetables, right? Same with the beef broth is like we want our, potatoes in there and like maybe some barley or something. So now I'm like, wow, okay, I'm emptying out my pantry and my freezer. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to start transitioning here and I had some chicken feet, so I was like, "You know what? That's perfect because I really do just want the collagen component." So, I also added some burdock root, which I had in my pantry, um, which is a wonderful, kinda like a, liver support and even a prebiotic. So it's really supportive right now. And I add whatever veggie scraps I've been collecting throughout the week. I keep them in the freezer and, um, I'll put them in the broth. So if I have plenty of veggie scraps, I might not add some of these wild elements, but a lot of times I have the dried wild elements when I don't have a lot of veggie scraps. So today I made a broth with chicken feet, nettles that I harvested last season that I had dried, the burdock root, as I mentioned, and then a couple handfuls of some turkey tail that I had foraged for, which is like a powerful immune support. So I'm thinking, like, all right, let me get, plenty of nutrients from the nettle, right? Let me get some liver prebiotic for my liver, my gut, right? To help me transition, right? Because this is, we're entering spring, which we think, the season of the liver, right? Um, and the immune support from the turkey tail as well as a prebiotic. So then, as you transition from one season to another, a lot of times people's immune systems kind of freak out a little bit, right? Because, maybe their liver isn't fully happy or some other such thing. So this is just an intuitive little medicinal concoction that I came up with. I kind of noticed that's when I tend to do it in a transition point. So anywho, I just thought I would share that. I usually make 2 batches, a gallon each in my Instant Pot, and I keep the same scraps from the first because I'm all about like eking out every little bit of essential goodies from the materials. And then the second broth will be a little bit lighter, but it'll still, be something I can cook with, right? I can steam things in it or simmer things in it or make little soups or whatever I want to do. So that's just one little thing I do to explain kind of how I think about the transition between seasons, like in terms of food. So speaking of, I mentioned liver health, right? Spring, like I said, is the perfect time to focus on our liver and gallbladder. In TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, they focus on the liver because that's what spring is associated with. And it kind of makes sense, right? After we eat all these more dense foods all winter long, and of course, the American people would just eat probably a lot of junk because of the holidays. So a lot of people's livers could use some TLC. And too many rich foods can lead to liver stagnation. And that's often why people have, the spring crud. I'll say that for simplicity's sake. Like a lot of people will get some kind of spring crud, right, in the next couple weeks, in the next month, um, because of that, right? So naturally, our bodies tend to start to crave less food in the spring. So, like, the transition point is kind of cool to pay attention to, right? Because we kind of can't go from all or nothing. But I've noticed people start to they already are feeling it. Like they don't want the same dense things. They feel a little sluggish. They're like, ugh, I think I need to clean things up. And that's because, we are designed to do a bit of fasting and cleansing in the spring. So, if you notice yourself in that transition, you can help yourself along. It's not about like a drastic measures or detoxes or any kind of like rigid diet, like hurry up, let me clean up this mess that I feel in my body from the winter, right? It's really just about listening to your body and kind of honoring its natural rhythms in light of the season you're also entering. And of course, the seasonal shifts can vary from location to location, right? But this is yet another way that we can rewild our wellness. Now, we're in Pisces season right now, so we're about to transition. We're transitioning from Pisces season. Pisces is a mutable energy, so more transitional. It's also water, so a little bit more fluidity and flow. So it's just a really good time to be thinking about all this. And we're about to enter Aries season. That's what starts the spring. So it's like the new year. And Aries is cardinal energy. It's initiating energy. This is my moon. I have my Aries. My moon is in Aries. My Chiron is in Aries in my fourth house. Um, and so, this transitional point, we really are cosmically supported as well in our efforts to start anew. So this is a perfect time to clear out all the old. That Pisces is the water is like washing us clean, right? Making space for new, fresh beginnings so that you can, kind of take off with renewed vigor in Aries season to create new potential in your life. So, staying healthy through spring means, more than just shifting your diet and what you're eating. It's really about like that holistic balance. I start to think about how I'm going to move a lot more for a while. It's like I have to kind of like thaw myself out. Well, not really. I'm kind of joking, but I definitely move very differently in the winter, and I move a lot more as soon as spring hits. So, it's a good time to start thinking about like, well, how am I going to brace for this season change? Like what is it that I want to accomplish? I have a lot of things that I learned about my body from my hiking fall last year, which I'll talk about again soon. So, it's really changed how I think about movement and how I want to really be more intentional about learning to work with my body. So that's something I'm thinking about. Um, it's a new season, so it's an opportunity to reflect, to practice more self-awareness, to, think about ways we can express ourselves more creatively because we're entering this fresh energy, right? Like these new beginnings. That's what spring is all about. And also creation. We had the winter to rest and to, you know, kind of think back on the past year, to hibernate, to bunker down, to prepare for all of this. So it's a good time to, how are you going to create? Like, do you have an inner artist that wants to show up and create things? It doesn't have to be like art in terms of like drawing or, the typical art that we think of. It's really anything creative that comes out of you. So I'm excited. I've got a lot that wants to burst out of me this spring. So mark your calendars for March 20th this year, 2025. That's when the spring equinox is. And this is nature's new year. This is when the day and night are perfectly balanced. So it's a really good time to set intentions for your health and your life. Like, what do you want to clear out? What new habits or experiences do you want to cultivate? Sometimes we might not know what they are if we don't know what the vision that we have for ourselves is. So it's a good time to journal, to work with the energy of the season. And as you navigate the transition, do start to pay attention to how you eat. Like, it could be a really fun time to journal if you're not already, like keep some kind of food journal, just to pay attention to how you eat. Whether you decide to do some kind of elimination diet or spring cleanse, or you don't have to, but what you could do is just take some time right now to see where things are at for yourself, right? And also use it as an opportunity to, during the transition, like, slow down, really, like before you're eating, like, just slow down. Honestly, if more people did that instead of trying some radical sweeping change all at once, which sometimes I think that's necessary. I'm not against it or anything, but you know, a lot of people, I don't know, they just get busy and they forget. It's like towards the end of every season, you kind of need a reset anyway. Are you running around? Are you super busy? Are you eating your meals on the go? Um, like, I had someone tell me they started choking the other day, and they realized they were eating just like too quickly and not chewing well, and they just started choking. you know, so we want to take time to actually relax before our meals, because this is what allows our body to get into that side of our nervous system that helps us to digest our food, right? So it's a good time to just spend, journal and pause and breathe and savor your food and just like reconnect with yourself around how you are showing up as someone who eats food. How are you showing up when you sit down to the table to eat your meals? Are you present with yourself and with your food? And then start to like notice as you shop, like what are the seasonal foods that are starting to come in, and start to make those transitions. Because honestly, even though things are not what they once were, we still have nature providing us exactly what we need at the right time. So you'll start to see a lot more, you know, vegetables coming in, green things coming in, and there's a lot of reason for why those are going to benefit us right now, more so than they would have in the winter. Now, if you're someone who frequently battles colds, allergies, digestive issues, spring might be the perfect time for a gentle, short elimination diet where I don't know, there's so many out there. I just think, if you go back to just like, healthy proteins, healthy fats, and plants, right? And just keep a journal. Make sure it's all whole foods. Make sure you're drinking plenty, right? Just keep a journal and track how different foods make you feel. It's such a good time to check in. Because if you're frequently battling those things, there is congestion in your body. There's something going on that is worth, just tuning into. It's also a really good time of year to explore various forms of body work. We were all of us were probably more sedentary in certain ways during the winter. So it's just kind of a good time to like check in and see how your body's holding up from the winter and open it back up and release things, so that you can prepare to be more active in the warmer months. So whatever resonates with you, whether it's acupressure, shiatsu, massage. My son is in massage school right now and he needs to practice. So I have a built-in massage therapist. I also have a dear friend who's a massage therapist and yoga instructor, and we are, working on some things together as well. So, just find what works for you. It really has to be a form of body work that you feel at ease about and also feel like it benefits you. Right? So, transitioning between seasons is just a journey. All of our paths are going to look a little different, right? Our lifestyles are totally different. We have to figure out what works for us. If you are feeling overwhelmed right now and you are like, "Oh man, I could really I could really use some help cleaning things up," and maybe you're not sure where to start. Um, I do have my one-on-one health sessions, those initial health sessions, that are just a great opportunity for people to get that personalized guidance on their health journeys in the moment. Maybe it's, maybe you're feeling this transition and wanting to pivot and you realize, man, I really need to tune up, if you will, or check in with somebody to give me some guidance. It's like a spring cleanup for your well-being. So if you want to use it for that intention, that's great. Um, and it will be, a way to get tailored advice on what to implement for yourself right now. Now, the key, honestly, to a successful seasonal transition is just creating space so that you can actually listen to your body, honor its natural rhythms, and just allow yourself to ease gently into the transition. And you won't be able to do that if you're not paying attention, if you're not present. So that's why, I'm bringing this up now. It's just a good time to just hit some pause buttons here and there in your life. Schedule some time for yourself. Give yourself a self-care date for yourself this week and sit down and just do a check-in, right? Some of the ways that I'm getting ready for spring, there's a bunch of things. I'm just going to share a few. I'm taking several concrete steps to align my life with the coming season because I am excited. Um, the spring cleaning in my home, keeping it organized. One of the things I'm doing is cleaning out my freezer, cleaning out my fridge, whittling down to almost nothing so I can start fresh. Using up what I can in the pantry before I go and do any more shopping. Just really working on that and, cleaning out the closets. That'll come. I kind of, you know, tend to do that as well. So it's not just about cleaning up your closet, right? It's just about decluttering areas of your life to make space for new energy and fresh starts. Um, so pick an area that's important to you. Or maybe that it's a area that's driving you nuts and if you don't deal with it, it's gonna bug you. And that'll free up energy once you do it. So um find out what that is for you and get that going. um, I transitioned my pantry, so I have some butternut squash in the cupboard in the back of a closet, a really cold, chilly closet that I'm gonna use up. Finishing up some of my starchier things like grains to make room for other things. We're gonna have a lot more light, fresh food, so I'm trying to use up some of my stuff. I'm putting my sourdough starter back in the fridge. I've been feeding it every day. That's because I use it a lot. So I'm gonna slow down using that and make less bread. I'll be reviving my water kefir greens so that they start to flourish again for the warmer months. I tend to slow down producing it in the winter because they just aren't as happy here in the colder kitchen. And then I also mentioned to you how I transitioned my bone broth. So I've been working on using up all the beef bones that we had. So they're not taking up prime real estate in my freezer, and we use them in the winter time versus when we're going to want the light stuff in the spring. I also am using up some of the wild foods that I harvested to make space for new stuff that I'm going to start using. And also, I'll gather and dry and store for the next winter, right? So, and I'm finishing up my winter tincture. So I have a couple that I'm using, and some of them I may need to keep using, but I have a feeling my body's going to want some different things in light of the spring. So I will replace those with my spring tincture. So I've been working on finishing those up. I will also do a health check-in. There's a bunch of ways that I do this, but primarily my first step is to do a retest hair tissue mineral analysis. So I will be cutting my hair soon for that. I always do a retest at the start of every new season. I've been doing this for over 10 years. It helps me get a clear picture of my health status, what I need to focus on in terms of like support. So that also helps me make the plan for the season as well. In terms of like, thinking about some foods I want to focus on, what, additional nutrient support do I need? How do I want to support my nervous system this season? All the different things like immune, does my liver need a little extra help? Am I ready for this? Am I ready to, because in the spring, as we get more energy, I'll be shoring myself up so that I can do a little bit more cleaning out in the summer as well, when I have a lot more energy and I'm shored up from nature and so on and so forth. Also, like I mentioned a little bit ago, I'm just, recalibrating how I do movement and body work. So I'm getting my supports in place. I have like appointments with people and check-ins and trying to figure out how we're going to work together. Get my massages scheduled. I have a meeting with an occupational therapist to work on the vestibular system, like all the stuff I have in my head because of my narrow palate, my deviated septum, and some issues I had from my mold and just stuff like that. So I'm like going to be working on that. I found another person who teaches this whole beautiful movement system that I'm really excited to explore if that's going to be something I do. So, anywho, this is like era 2.0 of Lydia. Remember, I turned 50 in the fall. I had that big fall in the spring. It's really made me reassess how I take, care of my body, and I just really want to strengthen and restructure and stay solid for the years to come. And then vision planning, business planning, right? Like, so it's such a good time to get ready, to reassess, to plan, to map out any goals or strategies or whatnot. So for me, it's like with my business, like I've been really working hard to figure this out over the winter so that I can, move into the busier season that I'm going to want to be out playing in the woods more and hiking more. I've been working to get ready so that I can free up space for that. I also like to get a general sense of like any projects, or maybe I'll hold some ceremonies for myself around the different moons. I also hold ceremony with a friend, so we may plan something for this season, and then any social events or trips. So, if you're feeling inspired to make the most of the seasonal transition, like I'm talking about here, maybe you're not sure where to start. Definitely check out my initial health sessions if that sounds like something you need right now to just help guide you through your personal spring health reset, if you will. We can discuss your unique needs, create a tailored plan, set you up, for a vibrant, energized spring. Um, spring's all about new beginnings. So, here we go. I wanted to come in and talk about this today. I'll also have a few past spring related episodes for you in the show notes so you can really jazz yourself up for all things spring and, rewild your wellness this spring. Just working with the natural energy and just making more sense out of your choices in light of the spring as we go further into it. All right. Well, I hope you guys found this episode helpful. I was just inspired to come by and share it with you. Until we meet again, stay wild and well, my friends.